Hi, everyone. Mitch from PickDogs.com. I'm here with Big Al McMorty and Jay Briggs here with your NFL Week 7 show. Man, boy, NFL, we're already in Week 7, but it is a 17-game schedule now with one bye week. So we still got 11 weeks of football left. We got tons left, but it is starting to get to be that point in the season where it's like it becomes common, where it's like every Sunday we're used to seeing it again. You start to take some things for granted. Last week, another, crazy week on Sunday and, full of bad calls and everything else. And Al, if you didn't see our halftime show on Sunday night, Jay was crying like a little baby on that Eagles Cowboys game. And I was like, we need to just clobber the Cowboys here the second half. This is like everyone was so down on them. We got the Cowboys for the second half. Like after, I had the Cowboys for the game, so I lost. But we got the Cowboys on the second half there against the Eagles. They were gifting money. We got them at plus 3 points and at plus 145 on the money line for the second half. They were down by like 1 million points. And it was like, you knew the Eagles were going to go into the soft zone, that the Cowboys were going to come underneath, drives that were going to take a little bit of time, but they were going to be able to move the football. And Jay was like, no, they're going to score nothing. And it's like, they're done. And he took the Eagles the second half. It was terrible.
Oh, I know. All I know is I would have cried like a little baby had that guy made that 59-yard field goal at the end of the game. That was.
Yeah, I had the Cowboys there, and we still almost won. We came,
that's a 50 for that kicker. It's a 50-50 field goal,
right?
50-50. Maybe even 60-40 that he's going to make it. I mean,
yeah. Oh, it was definitely. I felt that at that time when they lined up for it, I figured it was an automatic, and that we were going to be looking at an onside kick. And probably the Eagles recovering, taking a knee and getting out of Dodge and backdooring all the people that had the Eagles. And it would have been, the whining that you normally hear from me on a weekly basis coming from all the Eagles backers. But it wasn't. And, we're going to get some of those. We're going to not get some of those. And on that one, I didn't get it. I had a few that went that way for me last week. And it's the nature of the beast. I had the Bears. I know you had the Commanders, so you were on the right side of that one too.
No. I got the money, but you were on the right side of that one. I mean, they out-yarded them by what, 100, 200 yards, whatever.
Yeah, they doubled them up. They doubled them up and everything else, but that doesn't matter. And matters is how you cover it. And I was on the right side of a few of the other ones though on Sunday that I think weren't as popular choices. So it's all part of it. I had whoever was playing Arizona, the Seahawks. I had them, and I had what was some of the others? I had the Patriots was my top play of the week.
That's a good top play.
The Patriots are they're sneaky good this year. They're better than they were last year. They're a better team than they were last year, and Mac Jones is nothing special. So when you don't have a special quarterback to begin with, not a lot matters. But we've got Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. And, I only have one thing to say about the primetime games this week. Thank God it's not the Denver frickin' Broncos, man. I am so sick of these guys in primetime. It's it. I've checked out of the primetime relationship with the Denver Broncos. It's enough. It's like, who came up with this? There's 6 weeks into the season. We've seen the Denver Broncos in primetime 4 times. I mean, there's 32 teams in the league. You figure, so there's 3 primetime games a week. So 6 weeks would be 18 games, 36 teams. There was an extra Monday night game, so 38 probabilities for spots. But the Broncos get 4 of those. And there was more runs scored in the Phillies-Padres game last night than in all the Broncos games combined this season. I mean, it's terrible. Not a fun watch. But anyways, we've got the Cardinals and the Saints. Another one, Amazon Prime. This is about as generic of a game as you get. It's weird because both these teams are 2-4. The expectations for the Saints, I would say, were a little bit higher coming into the season than this. The Cardinals, I think a lot of people thought Cliff Kingsbury's on his way out anyway. And, so that's kind of what we see here. Al, what do you think of this one for Thursday Night Football? The total dropping 1.5 points so far.
Yeah, as you just mentioned, Mitch, each team comes into this game with a 2-4 record. Each has a negative scoring margin. Each also has a negative point spread differential. I'm going to side with Arizona here. It's 36-13 against the spread at home off back-to-back losses if its opponent has a negative scoring margin, which it does. So, let's go with the Cardinals in this ballgame.
Hey, how about you?
Yeah, I know Big Al just mentioned that stat for the Cardinals at home, but the more interesting stat for the Cardinals at home, and I think they've lost like the last 8 straight at home, straight up. They're one of the worst home teams there is. Most of their games come on the road, and I like New Orleans with that defense on the road. I think they win it outright, to be honest.
The Cardinals going to go with the all-black alternative uniforms on Thursday night. I mean, because that's when the teams break out the alternative uniforms.
They can't stand those uniforms.
They've worn the all-black already this year, the Cardinals, but sometimes they go all red also. I like the Cardinals red shirts, white pants. I always thought that was a good look, but apparently not good enough. But the Cardinals have also gone with a black helmet on the alternate uniform.
I like it. It's a little switch up.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know, man. I think I like the traditional uniforms. I like the old Patriots uniform. I like the old Dolphins uniform. I even like, I think teams that have had multiple uniforms, like the Rams, they were white and blue, and then they were yellow and blue. This is way before your time, Jay. But they used to be white and blue originally, and then they became yellow and blue. They switched, and certain teams, the Chargers went powder blue, then they went dark blue, then back to powder blue, or a different blue. Now it's a different blue altogether. But I don't know. Sometimes I lose track, especially in the college games when I have multiple games on. I find myself cheering for the wrong team because I'm not really sure who's who, what uniforms they're wearing. Because the colleges now will have alternate uniforms also. Anything to make a buck. Taysom Hill's played pretty well here for the Saints in this kind of reliever role, but the Saints have been a major disappointment. First-year head coach, never really a good sign here. Alvin Kamara still looks like he's lost a step. I just don't like the way that they look. And the Cardinals, I don't know, a bunch of veteran players that are now look like long in the tooth. So this is another crappy game. I'm going to go with the under in this thing. I just don't see any points being scored at all. It seems in the NFL this season, and I don't know what the trend is, but I guess we could find out pretty easily.
Unders have been coming in.
Yeah, it just seems 50, the year of
50. Yeah, this year it's 56-37. Underdogs are 51-37 with 3 pushes, and then a couple games that pick them. This is a trend that's continued from last season as well. Last season, the unders came in as well, and also the underdogs were slightly profitable at 149 and 133. And of course, it kind of goes hand in hand. When you have less amount of points, you also tend to have the underdogs cover the spread because there's less blowouts and stuff.
The defenses have clearly caught up to the offenses with the spread offenses and things like that. And we might see the return of the running back and even the return of the fullback, the way these defenses are set up with all the defensive backs. And there's going to be room underneath. We saw Ezekiel Elliott look more effective running the football this past Sunday than we've seen him look in years. He looked more effective running the football since the day he jumped into the Salvation Army tin on Thanksgiving Day. That was the last time he really looked to be overly effective. But, I think we see defenses catch up. So the NFL, of course, not letting defenses rule the day, not their thing, is to be a defensive league. They're all about being an offensive league. What they've done now is they've instituted the look at the quarterback funny, and it's roughing the passer. That's the new rule, or trash talk, and it's 15 yards. Always against the defense.
Yeah.
Always against the defense. Never is there a trash talk call against the offense. Only against the defense. The offense, they can get a first down. They can just take the whole team off the bench and just have an organized square dance on the field. And that's okay. But the guy calls the other guy an asshole. It's like, it's the world has ended, and it's a 15-yard penalty. I personally believe that they've gone way too far on these things, and that those should be a fine and not a penalty that affects the actual game, because it wasn't a play that affected the game. The extracurricular, whatever, is not a play that affects the game. It did not affect the play. It did not affect the yards that were gained or lost on the play. It has no bearing on the game whatsoever. It should be a fine. And if you want to really make a statement, make it a ridiculously large fine. But to have it affect the outcome of the game, because Chris Jones, tackled your quarterback and let your quarterback know, hey, I tackled you, is ridiculous. And then, the call that was called on, this past Monday night's gem, what the call on Bradley Chubb, and the call on Brady, these are some of the worst calls you'll ever see. I mean, as far as roughing the passer, if you're going to, and this is, goes back to my Miami Hurricanes, if you're going to take a roughing the passer, you drill that quarterback and you make it really, really count. And that's what we're going to start to see, is that these roughing the passers, there's not going to be the ticky tack. These are going to be just savage hits. It's like, if you're going to call me anyway, I'm going to make sure your quarterback's not getting up. That's what we'll see next. The NFL rarely has a good solution to these things. Rarely a good solution. Like, we want to open up the passing game, so we'll make it so we'll make it so it'll be easier for them to pass. We'll say that the defensive back can't touch the receiver at all. We'll eliminate the chuck from 10 yards. We'll make it 5 yards. We'll eliminate the chuck altogether. Right? We'll do all of these different things, and then what they do is they just say, all right, fine, you won't let us cover anyone. We're going to just blitz your quarterback. And then all the quarterbacks get hurt. Now it's, we have to protect them from the concussion or whatever. Where is that, our responsibility as sports bettors to give up 15 yards protecting the concussion here? I don't understand it. I mean, it's affecting my income.
I'd at least like to see that stuff be reviewable, where you can throw a flag and you could try to, protest one of these calls, because at least
the worst calls are never reviewable. And that's how replay works, is that the worst calls are not reviewable. Only the obvious calls are reviewable, but the very worst, atrocious calls are the ones that are not reviewable. The holding calls, the phantom holds, the non-calls on the holds, not reviewable plays. These are the ones that actually do affect the game a lot more than anything that somebody says to somebody else. And who even knows what half the other stuff that goes on, the trash talking that's not flagged and that there's not a ref in the general area.
All right.
Speaking of trash talking, Dak Prescott should be back in action here for this Cowboys.
What are the chances of that? Because I'm reading conflicting reports. I'm sure Jay's got the.
He says he's going to play.
No. I know he says it. Jerry Jones says it, but then the coach and the general manager are giving a little bit of pushback. So I'm just wondering, what do you think about that?
I think it's about 85% chance he plays. He wants to be back in there, and I doubt that they can hold him off from wanting to be back in there. Honestly, and like I said, 85% chance. I thought he should have played last week. So I definitely think he's in there this week.
I don't know. I think I always do this. I Google Mike McCarthy salary, and he makes $4 million a year. Then I Google Dak Prescott salary, and he makes $40 million per year. So I'm going to guess that Dak has 10 times as much say in this decision as Mike McCarthy.
Good observation.
Yeah. So if Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott are on one side, then he's playing.
Yeah, you got to keep it. You got to keep it. You got to keep it simple sometimes.
Right.
That's all. I just go right to Google. If it says it on the internet, it must be true. Mike McCarthy, $4 million per year. Dak Prescott, $40 million, and it goes back to the old adage: you can't fire the team. You can't fire the team. I think Cooper Rush, it was kind of a fitting end for him to lose that game in Philly, but to still, be respectable in the second half, kind of do some things in the second half that he's not going to get any credit for. It still is seen as like a Cowboys loss and a bad Cowboys loss. And the reality of, like you said, Al, it came down to, 4 feet on a field goal that he missed. It's 4 feet to the right that was missed by the kicker as far as covering the spread, which is all we care about.
Yeah.
But Cowboys-Lions, the Lions, they were seriously banged up. They started the season really nicely, and the 1-4 record doesn't tell the story. But when DeAndre Swift went down and St. Brown, they were not the same team. when they lost those two guys. They don't have the depth to do it, but Swift is questionable for this one. And who else is? Looks like everyone else is good to go.
Yeah, I mean, they were shut out in their last game, 29-0 by the Patriots. And now, of course, they have to play one of the league's best defenses in Dallas. The over-under was at 48. It's now up to 49. So the Sharps have hit the over, which kind of leads you to believe that that's due to them buying into the fact that Prescott's going to play. So you're seeing some movement on the total. I like the under. It'd be nice if it can get up to 50. I can take it under the 50 rather than under the 49. But since 1985, teams off shutout losses have gone under the total 67% of the time when the line's been 45 or more points. I'm going to look for a relatively low-scoring game here, but I think it's probably best to wait until closer to game time because I think once Prescott's confirmed, you're going to see a higher total.
Well, that game made it. Let me see, 2019. No, I was going to say that I thought that Patriots-Lions game made it 8 consecutive quarters that Jared Goff didn't score a touchdown against a Bill Belichick coach team, but actually they did rematch the following year, and the Rams won that game 24-3. So unless he was out, which is possible. Yep, actually Goff ran one in that game. Cooper Kupp scored a touchdown as well. Surprise, surprise.
I mean, we can skip Jay since we know what he's gonna take in this game anyway.
Actually,
Jay likes the Lions and the points.
This isn't an easy one. I think this is a prime trap spot. Actually, if I really had to pick it, I would take the Lions and the points in this one. The Lions can score some points, and like we said, Dak is back. But this Lions, the reason why is I don't love the Lions is because the Lions are the worst scoring defense in the league. Teams typically run up the scoreboard on them, and I can see Dak Prescott feeling really comfortable in the pocket and doing the same in this game. So my favorite play in this game is actually the over. I do think we see some points get put up on the board. I think Dak wants to show his toys that he's healthy. On the other side, this Lions team's offense is sneaky, especially if DeAndre Swift gets in there. I know my Cowboys have a great pass rush and all, but the Lions can run the football, especially with Swift, and that's the Cowboys' defense's weakness. So I do think we see some points. I would lean towards the Lions, but I know on game day I'm going to fall towards the Cowboys. So I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all now, take the Cowboys minus the points and the over in this game.
I think this game could definitely go over, but that Lions defense is so bad against the run. And I think whether it's Dak or whether it's Cooper Rush, I think we're going to see the Cowboys go back to the run. Ezekiel Elliott, like I said, he looked better than he has in years in that game. I think standing on the sideline and watching Pollard run and stuff maybe has lit the fire under him. I thought Ezekiel Elliott had gotten a little bit too big and a little too thick, but he looks to maybe be in a little bit better shape than he's been in recent years. And I think it's because, well, maybe his contract is close to coming up and he makes a lot of money. So it could be any of those things, but regardless, the Lions are 32nd in the NFL against the run. A lot of that has to do with, though, that they generally open games in a big hole, and then they've been coming back in the second half and catching the back door. So the other teams run on them like crazy, but the Lions also 32nd in points allowed, 34 points per game. The Dallas defense only allows 16.3. I don't think Jared Goff is a good quarterback to be coming from behind against the Cowboys defense. I think that the Cowboys pass rush might be a little bit too much for him. And I think that DeMarcus Lawrence, kind of finding his game in this, Micah Parsons could be the defensive MVP this season. Might be the best. I don't know if I don't think he's the best defensive player in the league, but I think he could be the defensive MVP, especially if the Cowboys win the division somehow.
Which is still up in the air, man. That's gonna be this division.
There's a lot of
yeah.
The bulk of the games are still in front of them. There's 11 games of regular season to be played for the Cowboys and the Eagles. So
yeah, the problem is that the Eagles have such a cream puff schedule.
Yeah,
they're going to be 13-0.
Yeah,
I mean,
they might be. They might be.
you know, it's
They're fully capable of losing. They've had.
They're capable of losing, but they're also capable of being 13-0. And when you look at the schedule, I wouldn't bet against it.
I don't know. The Cardinals just missed on that field goal against them. So it's like they just missed. Eventually, those are going to go through. The NFL, very tough to win them all.
No, I'm not saying 17-0. I'm saying 13-0.
Speaking of 13-0, we got the Commanders taking on the Packers. The Packers kind of remind me of Notre Dame this year. The problems might be a lot bigger than people are willing to admit. Aaron Rodgers, complaining about his receivers in the preseason, they haven't gotten any better at all. And people are always like, well, Aaron Rodgers complains about his receivers. And, he's had bad starts to the season before, but normally he says, don't worry, all is well. He has not said that at all this season. I think he is deeply, deeply concerned. And I think that with Cobb out now, it gets even worse. And I thought Cobb is about 6 years past where he's a viable NFL receiver. I never understand why the Packers don't go out and get anybody to help Rodgers here. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It just seems that, it'd be easy enough, to go out and get someone. I mean, would it kill them if they would have signed Amari Cooper, or someone like that? Would it kill these guys? Apparently it would, because they refuse to give him any help whatsoever. And this is the worst wide receiver core he's ever had.
I tell you, I played on both of these teams last week. As I mentioned earlier, I think I got lucky with the Commanders. They were outgaining yardage 392 to 214 by the Bears. The Bears committed 2 costly turnovers, and the Bears got, stuffed a half yard away from the end zone, and that's what won it for Washington. The Packers, obviously, they had a bad showing last week, but the silver lining is that they actually, them and the Jets, had the same amount of yards. So it wasn't, they lose 27-10, but as far as yardage goes, they were dead even with New York. For me, this is almost a lesser of two evils pick. I'll take Green Bay minus the points. They're 24-12 ATS off an upset loss with Aaron Rodgers under center. And for me, it's more of a, go against Washington than a play on Green Bay. So I'll take Green Bay.
We don't have Carson Wentz to kick around anymore. This is the Taylor Heineke show in Washington this week. Wentz is out for I don't know how long.
Here in this one, Green Bay. I've been on Green Bay back-to-back weeks, unfortunately. 10-point favorite against the Giants, and they get backdoored and lose outright. 8-point favorites last week against the Jets at home, and they end their home winning streak against the Jets. This is just not a team that I could just continue betting on the Green Bay Packers. Like Mitch was saying, they have no receivers. Aaron Rodgers just seems not to be in the right form right now. Their defense, which was supposed to be their staple, is not very good at all. I think Washington will come in here and play with some spunk behind Taylor Heineke. And I'm going to take the points of Washington here in this one. And I like Washington on the money line here in this one. Green Bay's going in the wrong direction this year. I just don't see it, man. I think I don't know. Washington, they did come off a crazy win last week, but the defense showed me some things. They bended, but they didn't break. I think they're going to play some solid defense against a not very good Green Bay offense. And I'm going to take Washington.
Washington without Wentz is definitely a stronger team than they are with him. And, I think for the Packers, like I said, the problem is just like Notre Dame. They're bigger than what most people are willing to admit because they're such popular teams. And we're so used to them being, on the winning end of things. But the Packers, Corey Dillon, I think, has been a major disappointment at running back. He doesn't really have breakaway ability. They don't even have imagine if you gave Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Sproul, a Derek Sproles type of guy to work with, or something like that, just anything. But he has absolutely nothing. He has Alan Lazard, whose biggest play so far this season is knocking the cheese head off of Sauce Gardner's head. That's his highlight of this season, and that's not good enough. So I don't know. I'm going to take the Commanders here. I think they're a better team with Heineke than they are with Wentz. I think Carson Wentz might have taken his last snap as the starting quarterback of the Commanders. Got the Titans against the Colts. I don't know. It just seems that these teams play each other all the time.
I had the same thought.
You know,
four games a year against each other, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, this is the second time they've played this year. And it just seems that they play each other an awful lot. And always Derrick Henry has a really big game. So I'm just going to continue to think that he has a big game again here. Al, what do you think?
Well, Tennessee won that first meeting 24-17, but the Colts actually outgained Tennessee in that ball game by 122 yards. Indianapolis got 365, Tennessee just 243, but the Colts committed 3 turnovers. Tennessee committed none, and that was all she wrote for the Colts. I'm going to take the revenge-minded Colts in this ball game. They're 30-14 ATS as an underdog when playing with revenge against a division foe. So give me Indianapolis.
Matt Ryan is so bad. So bad.
Last week, what was he, 42 of 58?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm with you, Al, on these Colts. Matt Ryan, he showed me some things last week. I think that the main problem with the Colts is they would get into the red zone and sputter. They had no red zone offense. Last week, though, Matt Ryan kind of was starting to get comfortable in that pocket. The offensive line started to look better. I think they get on Tennessee here this week. This Colts team, I think they're starting to – it took them a while, and that's what I thought it was. They're usually slow starters every year. I know a few Colts fans, and that's what they say, hey, we start slow every year. But now they're kind of getting in that midseason flow. I think they jump over Tennessee here, and I like the Colts on the money line in this one as well.
I'm taking the other side here. I'm on Tennessee. Derrick Henry just always has a big game against the Colts, and I think he has one here. Matt Ryan looks spent to me. Ryan Tannehill's terrible. It's like the more that he plays well, the more they're stuck with him. But I don't think you have to live with this. And I like the Titans in this one. Go to the next game. It's the Jaguars against the Giants. The Giants 5-1 on the season. They are probably, if they go a little less than 500 all the way home, if they go, so there's 6 games in, they have 11 games left. If they go 5-6, they're probably a playoff team.
The Giants make the playoffs. Green Bay misses the playoffs. I think
well, it's easy to say that now that they're 5-1, but what were you saying back when they were 0-0? It's like,
I know.
It's like we all had them at last place. It's like 5-1. They haven't played on the road. I mean, they played in London, but they haven't played any really true road games. Outside of that, they played 1 road game. It's crazy, right? So their schedule is back end loaded with road games. The Jaguars have to be one of the biggest disappointments out there. And Doug Peterson, you suck. You're terrible, man. Just awful.
Well, the Giants, they're 4-2 under the total this season. They're now 28-10 with a push under the total the last 3 seasons. The Jaguars have gone under the total in 27 of their last 41 home games, including 16-3 under when the home game has had a line between 42 and 48. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm just going to keep riding the Giants under.
They have been straight money to the under even last week. Jay?
This is a tough game, but I think I'm going to roll with the books. Even the books, they're not sold on the Giants. I know I just made the statement. I think they make the playoffs. I just think this is a bad matchup for them here. I'm going to roll with the Jags at home, laying the points. I know the Jags are 2-4, but man, this Jags team is a weird team. Like, they've had some highs this year. They've had some lows. It's going to come down to this game. Can they protect the football? I like the Jags defense. I think this is going to be one of the tougher defense the Giants have faced this far this season, other than the Cowboys. I think we do see them move the football pretty well on this Giants team. I think the Jags win it. I think they win it by like 4 or 5. It's going to be a good game, tight game, but in the end, I think the Jags win it, and they win it. So I'm going to take them here at home.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with the Giants in this thing in the under. The Jags have just not been good enough, and they look like a lot of young players, and it's kind of like in baseball. I thought the Detroit Tigers were going to be a better team this year. After last year, they had strung together a lot of wins. Then they were missing Casey Mize, and Manning was hurt for a good portion of the season. They have their number, and Eduardo Rodriguez went AWOL. So they, all of a sudden their number 4 starter is their number 1 starter, and that's things start to deteriorate. But for the Jaguars, it just seems that this is a learning experience all over again, that they're making a lot of mistakes that you consider rookie mistakes, even with Trevor Lawrence being in his second year now. I thought they would take a lot bigger step forward, but they still seem to be missing pieces. And I think
still got some time.
I know, but if you're not going to be good, it's always better to be bad. That's why you draft, good. And, my Dolphins have no draft choice this year, no first rounder, but they have Pittsburgh's. So Steelers playing how they are certainly helping them, and they play head to head this week. I'm going to take the Giants. I'm not impressed with the Jags, and Doug Peterson looks to be the same crap ass coach that got fired in Philly. The back end of it, not the front end when he had Frank Reich as the offensive coordinator. We got the Panthers taking on the Bucs. The Panthers taking offers on Christian McCaffrey. Tampa Bay looks like a pretty logical spot for him to land if they're willing to trade within the division because their running game absolutely stinks this year. I think that the Packers is a nice spot for McCaffrey to land too if they're willing to trade what the Panthers probably want, which is probably a lot because they don't have players, so it would have to be in the form of draft picks. There's a few other potential landing spots for him as well that, he's a guy like that. As long as the price is reasonable, there's landing spots. But if they want what you would think they would want, they're probably not going to get a lot of takers there. But Panthers plus 10.5 here against the Bucs. Al?
Yeah, the Panthers lost last week, 24-10. They got, I think, a defensive score, so their offense never even got into the end zone. It went under the total of 41 by 7 points. But I think we're going to see a relatively higher scoring game here in this one. The Panthers have now gone over the total 29-7 with 2 pushes when they're an underdog of more than 6 points, including 10-0 with a push if they went under the total by 7 or more points in their previous game. So I'm going to take this over the total of 40.5.
Jay?
I'm going to go on the opposite of that. I like the under here in this one. This Bucs offense has been sputtering all season. Especially when you lose to that Steelers team, man, that's just crazy to me. And this Panthers team, their offense is just as terrible. Baker Mayfield listed as questionable. If it's him, I really like the under. If it's PJ Walker, I like the under as well. I just don't think we see a lot of scoring. I think the Bucs have a good chance of shutting them out, but this Bucs offense, like I said, has been sputtering on their own, and I don't think they get the total over themselves. So give me the under. I can see like a 21-3 type ball game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Panthers. I think the Bucs are another team where people are underestimating just how bad the problems are there. I think Tom Brady probably really regretting coming back 3-3, on the season. They can't run the football at all. I'm not going to lay double digits with them on the road. I just don't see it. We go to the Ravens against the Browns, and the Browns 2-4 on the season. This is a team once again that just seems to find a way to lose. We saw them against the Chargers in the game where they had the game won and couldn't win it. And then last week against the Patriots, it was just. It was one of those games, and we see Bill Belichick do this to teams where it's like he did it to the Rams in that Super Bowl, and he does it to other teams and I've seen really good college teams do it to other teams where it just looks like they put the other offense in a box, and it's like these guys can't punch their way out of the box. There's nothing they can do. Nothing works to move the ball forward. There's no moving down the field, and it just becomes a one-sided beatdown. It's just, it's not if, it's when. They're going to score and when they're going to do it, and eventually it becomes this avalanche of points. Yeah, it was a one-sided game against New England. For the Ravens, 3-3 on the season, they could easily be 5-1, But we keep saying that about them, but the bottom line is they are 3-3 now. And, I think they're lucky to be there, right? So what do you think, Al?
The Browns defense has sucked this year. They've given up 30.5 points per game versus opponents that aren't currently a losing team, which, of course, as you just mentioned, Baltimore's 3-3. So I think Baltimore's going to, find the end zone a lot against this Cleveland defense. It's true that Baltimore comes into this game off 3 straight unders, but the Ravens are 42-29 over the total off back-to-back unders. They're also 23-16 over the total off an upset loss. I like the over.
So for the Browns, right, they're 2-4 on the season. If they hit that field goal against the Chargers, right, they're 3-3. Really, what you have to believe that they are hoping to do here is just tread water, because they have so much talent on this team that Deshaun Watson is going to make a gigantic difference. I mean, if he's anything like the guy that we saw, in the past, he's going to make a gigantic. I mean, he's a 2 to 3 point spread player at least. He's that kind of guy. So I don't know though. You're here against the Ravens in Baltimore, and maybe you get a chance to cover running the football, but maybe not if you play the way you did last week. But you're not going to win because you got a kicker that misses clutch field goals against this guy. I mean, he's the guy, right? It's like if you had one guy, you get a pick. Who's the guy that's going to kick the game-winning field goal for you? It's this guy. This is the guy.
I like the Ravens in this one, but it's not my favorite pick because, like I said last week, the Ravens are the kings of the first half, and then they just allow the other team to come back and walk them down. That's the story of the Ravens season. Big leads early in the game and give up the lead. I think they've done it 4 times now this season, or 3 times. So it's kind of crazy. But so I like the Ravens first half as my favorite play, but I do lean towards them full game. This Browns team can be had on the ground. I think we see a Lamar game in this one where we just see like a crazy highlight. He goes 100 on the ground, 200 in the air. The Browns are just trying to desperately tread water until Deshaun gets back. And Brissett, he was looking okay to start the season, but now he's starting to look like a true backup quarterback. I think they're just limping to that time, and I like the Ravens to win this game by touchdown.
I think I like the Browns with the points. I think the Ravens win the game, no problem. I think I like the Browns with the points. I just think when you can run, just give the ball to Nick Chubb every single play. I mean, that's about
right.
What it boils down to. If you give it to him every single play and you go for it every 4th down, you're probably going to score points. It's going to hold on to the ball for a long time. You got the Bengals against the Falcons. Al, you missed it on Sunday at halftime. Jay just bailed out on his Falcons against Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers. It was sad.
I was just going to praise Jay. He's been on the Falcons from day one.
It was a sad watch, Al. Yeah. It was horrible. I'm there. I have the Falcons in the game, right?
I was trying to jump out
against the 49ers like I do every single week. And then we're watching the game at halftime, because like some of the games are still at the half, and this game has started already. And it's the Kyle Pitts touchdown. It's Jay's guy that scores the touchdown too. It just all came crumbling down because he was like, "Oh, the 49ers they're gonna win this game, cover the original spread." He said they're gonna score a touchdown right here. It's like they didn't even come close to the end zone. I mean, not even. They got slaughtered. That game was a 14-point game. But I don't know what the final stats were on that thing. But I don't think the Niners crossed the 50-yard line in the second half. And the Falcons' running game is really good. This could be the underestimated unit of the year. This Falcons rushing attack? These guys are good. I mean, and it's not like just Mariota scrambling around or anything like that. They have a legitimate rotation of backs back there that can all run,
and a great scheme built around that run as well.
I like what the Falcons are doing. They're covering like no one's business, even without Jay. It was like we're on the air and I'm like, oh no, it's Kyle Pitts. The touchdown.
Well, the problem for me in this, there's 2 things going on here. Number one, Cincinnati started the year with 2 straight ATS losses. They've bounced back to cover their last 4. And then, of course, Atlanta's covered every single one of their 6 games this season. But now you're starting to see the value, sucked out of Atlanta. They would have been a double-digit dog if this was week 1. Now it's 4 points less. At game 7 of the season, when you take a look at how NFL teams do that, cover the spread in their first 6 games, they've only covered in week 7 36% of the time. I just think this is the time to fade Atlanta, and I'm going to take Cincinnati.
San Francisco had 50 yards rushing in that game last week against the Falcons, and two interceptions by Garoppolo, a fumble, and it was all Falcons. It was all Falcons. Falcons only had 289 yards total in that game. I mean, they just whitewashed them.
Yeah. Here in this one, I'm with you, Al. I'm gonna go against my Falcons again, and I know. But I like Cincinnati here in this one. Since, like you said, Cincinnati has bounced back and quietly been putting together a second half of the season that's been solid after they lost their first one and their second one. Joe Burrow's adjusting to teams not allowing him to just have the deep ball. So he's kind of been finding that middle area. Him and Jamar Chase are playing the let's adjust to what the defense are doing to us game. Atlanta, like Big Al was saying, I think everybody's starting to look at them now. So it's just kind of tough. The line is not what it really should be, in my opinion. I kind of think now they're a little overvalued. So I like Cincinnati in this one. If the line was a little bigger, I would be on the Falcons, but I just don't think there's a lot of room here, especially against a good Cincinnati's team who's actually rolling right now. I'm gonna lay the points with Cincinnati.
Well, this is what we use for calculators these days is the iPad. And I tell you, I don't even actually need the calculator because I can tell you guys exactly where I'm going here. Last week, 30-26, Bengals, 19-17, lost to the Ravens. 27-15 in the Miami game, which was closer most of the way than that. 27-12 against the Jets. 20-17 against the Cowboys. 23-20 against the Steelers. Go back to last year, the Super Bowl, 23-20, the playoffs with the Chiefs, 27-24, 19-16 against the Titans, 26-19. They play in a lot of close games, the Bengals. They have a really good kicker also, and they like to get him on the field for some reason. They're like not one of these teams. They're the opposite of the Chargers. Like the Chargers, like they really hate, kicking. The Bengals, they love it. Their kicker's like a celebrity. I think he's the highest selling jersey like for that team over Jamar Chase. It's like they kick way too many field goals to be laying almost a touchdown with. I'm going to take the Falcons here in the points. I think the Bengals win this game by a field goal, late field goal. That McPherson, they love him. They love him.
He's still on my shit list for that kick he made. What week was that?
Oh, the Steelers game.
Yeah, that's what game it was. He's still on my list from there.
I was like, yeah, I got that one. Yeah, I've been on the wrong end of every game that's been like that. We got the Broncos. I've been defending them like no one's business all season, but they've become unwatchable football.
Overrated.
Against the Jets here. Jets are 4-2 on the season. They're feeling it. They're actually, it wasn't like a fluke that they played against the third-string quarterback for the Dolphins or anything like that. It's they're actually playing really good, and a lot of these draft choices that they had, a lot of these talented players, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, guys like that are actually really good players. And even being on the Jets can't screw that up. Al, what do you think?
Well, I wish I would know if Russell Wilson was going to play. He wants to play, but, it's a hamstring injury. So who the hell knows? It's just going to have to be, obviously, it's wait until Sunday before you make any final decisions. But if you take a look at this game, Denver's scored more than 16 points just once. They're averaging 15.16 points per game. They've gone under the total in 5 of their 6 games. I'm a contrarian, of course, so I'm going to take this one over the total. I think it's going to be a relatively high-scoring game. I just think it's going to be one of those games where you probably want to wait until Sunday to bet on it, because if he doesn't play, the line's going to come down even, more than what it is right now.
So for me, y'all know I've been telling y'all all season, and I'm pretty happy that I've been trying to explain this to everybody that the Denver Broncos are going to be overrated. Russell Wilson is overrated. But I was on them last week. They covered for me, and I'm going to be on them here this week. I think they beat the Jets. The Jets, I think they're overrated right now. They're good. Don't get me wrong. They got some nice players. They got Sauce Gardner, Greedy Williams down there, and Zach Wilson kind of just being game manager, not being throwing too many turnovers. But they really haven't just played nobody. Like they haven't. They beat the Packers last week in Lambeau, which that's a great win. But the Packers ain't playing well right now. They beat the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. They beat the Steelers, which is probably one of the worst teams in the league. So, 4-2 is a good record, but I think this Broncos team, this defense, this is definitely going to be one of the better defenses the Jets have seen all year. I think we see the Zach Wilson from last year. I think he throws a few interceptions. And if Russell's in there, I really like Denver to win this game. So I would kind of bet it early because I think he does play. So I think Denver finds a way to win this game, and I'm going to take Denver on the money line.
I think the Broncos defense is great. Their offense is just absolutely terrible. And, I just don't see it. I think the Jets have drafted really well, and I think they have a good enough coach now that they can't screw that up. I think, we left out. Now they're feeding Hall, he's going to be a good one.
He might win me my fantasy league. I got him on my fantasy team. I know you don't play fantasy.
20 carries last week, 20 carries last week. My fantasy football was happened last week also. Navy against SMU. Couple seconds left to go in the game. They just scored the garbage, meaningless touchdown to cover the spread. It was like a fantasy come true.
Not for me.
Well, you've been on the right side of a lot of my bet. I mean, you had the Commanders last week.
The Commanders game came down to the last play, man. He holds on, he's in.
Cowboys,
There's been a lot of games this year that could have gone one way or the other.
Yeah, I think that Broncos defense is unbelievable. So I think this one is probably an under all the way. That's the way to go here. I think the Jets are going to continue to run the football. They have a balanced attack. It's a crazy thing. And Zach Wilson is a lot better quarterback than people give him credit for.
He's been good this year.
He was great at BYU. BYU always has that same strategy. Let's find a kid that's 28, 29 years old, stick him in here against a bunch of high school kids and see what happens. It's like that's what they do. We got the Las Vegas Raiders off the bye against the Texans, who I believe are off the bye as well. Yeah. So two teams off the bye in Vegas where I don't know. It's got to be a very, very disappointing year for them. Al?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, you asked me who was the, best team that was 0-3, and I said Las Vegas. They went out and they beat Denver 32-23, but then they came back and they lost by 1 point to the Chiefs. I still wish he would have sent that game to overtime instead of trying to go for two. But
me and you both.
Yeah, it's just. But anyway, so now they're 1-4, and they're the best 1-4 team or even better than that. They're the best team with a losing record in the NFL right now. Their average margin of victory is just -1 points per game. Their average point spread differential is just also -1 points per game. And if you take a look at how teams do with a 1-4 record, if their average margin of victory is not worse than -3.5 points per game, then in week 7 they've gone 11-3 ATS. I just think right now Las Vegas is, much, much, much better than a 1-4 record. They could be 3-2, right? So I hate laying points with Las Vegas. I've talked about how bad they are as a favorite. I think it might be something like 1-11 or something like that. But I'm going to lay the points with Las Vegas here.
Jay?
I couldn't agree more with what you just said, Big Al. I'm with you on the Raiders this week. One thing that does scare me, as I know both of y'all have said earlier in the year, the Raiders just, even when they win, they just find a way to win by like 1 point.
2 points.
Right. They
suck, 2-point win.
They suck as a favorite, but
eventually. Terrible.
So it scares me, man. But I just think it's the right side to be on. They are the better team. They're better than this 1-4 record. And against this Texas team, they're scrappy. Don't get me wrong. This Texans team is a scrappy team. They like to hang around. They're 1-3-1, but they've been fighting all year too. But I like the Raiders here. I think they can win here by like 10 points. So give me the Raiders.
Well, Charles Barkley always says your record is your record, and that is their record. And,
you can say that to Charlie. His record is his record. He's never won anything. So.
According to the casinos, I think you're right. But the thing is, the Raiders, like Jay said, they win a lot of games by 1, 2, 3 points. I think that the Raiders, even if they win, I don't like them to cover the spread. Texans have done me so dirty. That Chargers game, that left a mark. But I'll put it past me. I'm not good at that at all. Anyway, speaking about not putting it past me, we've got the 49ers taking on the Chiefs. I don't know. It's just we've seen Patrick Mahomes now twice in the last year throw interceptions in the second half late. And it's like, oh, you never see him do that. But he did it. And he did it in the AFC Championship game last year, and he did it last week against Buffalo. He's better than that. I think he's the best quarterback. I do. I think he's if you have a guy and you say, you know what, you have a choice of whoever at this point in their career, today, the here, the now, not like at any point in their career, at the peak of their career or anything, but just today. And I'm not saying he's the best of all time. I think he's the best right now. I don't know. That's why when he throws those interceptions like that, it wasn't like an amazing play by the defensive back. Like, it just jumped around. It's just odd. But the 49ers are a terrible team. They're terrible. If Bosa's not playing again, the defense is a shell of what they are with them. We saw that against the Falcons when Kyle Pitts went nuts on them without Jay.
This game, for me, I like San Francisco for two reasons. Number one, they're off an upset loss last week. They're 68-28 ATS off an upset loss if they were favored by 3 or more points in that previous game. But I also want to go against Kansas City. Win or lose, that was a huge emotional game for the Chiefs last week. And whether they won the game or whether they lost a game, this is going to be an emotional letdown spot for them. So I think Kansas City will suffer a letdown here after that, playoff revenge matchup last week. Not for them, but, for Buffalo, but it's still, the matchup of that great game. So I'm going to take San Francisco here plus the 3 points.
For me in this one, I know this rarely happens, but I really do believe the Chiefs line it up and win this game at the buzzer by 3. I think that's just how it goes. I think it's going to be a tight, competitive game. I think Pat Mahomes lead them down, kind of avenges that last drive from last week, and they win it by a field goal. It's just how I see it. So I think it's right on the number. Total-wise, I think I'm going to lean towards the under. I think 49ers defense plays better this week than it did last week. They pretty much allowed Atlanta to do whatever they wanted. And the Chiefs defense, they're better too. I don't think we just see a whole bunch of scoring in this one, so I lean towards the under. But as far as the side, I think it's right on the number. I think the Chiefs win it by 3.
I'm taking the Chiefs in this one. Marcus Mariota can beat you. Patrick Mahomes sure as heck can beat you. And I think he does here. So I'm going to take the Chiefs. And I don't know. I just think I think that a pressure defense like that kind of plays right into Andy Reid's hands. He loves to dink and dunk over the top of the pass rush and stuff. And I could see him, Clyde Edwards-Helaire having a big game receiving. Probably you want to take the prop bets on Helaire receiving yards. My guess is going to be a pretty strong play here. The Niners defense is ball hawking too, in the secondary, and they've had a couple touchdowns defensively already this year too, but not against this guy. No way. I don't think he loses back-to-back too many times.
Yeah.
Got the Chargers against the Seahawks, and Chargers, I don't even understand how they won that game, to be honest with you. But they did, and they have some big problems too at receiver right now. So playing against a Seahawks team that, 3-3, they have the same record as the 49ers. I think they have the better record than the Cardinals, and are they in first place in that division? I believe they are.
I think they are.
I think they are.
When is Keenan Allen coming back?
I don't know. That's a great question, though.
He was on the sideline of the last game, and they thought he was going to be able to go.
I mean, that's been the story for he's like week to week for how many weeks now? It's just
he's still questionable right now. So
they should change it from week to week to month to month. I mean, it's just
it happens. I saw James Wiseman play an NBA game last night, so it happens. I mean, these guys do eventually play. He's actually played a bunch. It's not like Vanette or something. What's his name? Barrett, the defensive back from TCU. I mean, this guy's been out for 5 years. But James Wiseman was pretty good, right? I mean, he's actually good. I mean, he's really good. That Steph Curry's pretty good too. That guy's really unbelievable.
Yeah, I was annoyed that Golden State had that, that bottomed out year so that they could draft a high pick and get Wiseman. That was just ridiculous.
The rich get richer.
I know. Let's just have all the players suck at once and we'll just get James Wiseman.
It's crazy good, right? The Warriors are better than they were last year. At least, after one game.
I think they are too.
Through one game. But seeing him out on the court and then Steph Curry just it's unfair,
Yeah.
I was saying this morning, I remember the Jimmy Kimmel, the halftime of the NBA Finals or the pregame for the NBA Finals, like 10 years ago, he was on and he had to play one-on-one against Jimmy Kimmel, riding a tricycle with one hand tied behind his back, and he still beat him. And that's how good he is. Right. Where are we at? We're on the Seahawks. Chargers and the Seahawks, which I would rather see the Warriors Lakers again and watch this game. That's for sure.
Well, last week the Seahawks played an extremely low-scoring game. They won 19-9 against Arizona. The game went under the total of 50.5 by 22.5 points. The Chargers also played an exceptionally low-scoring game. Theirs was 19-16 in overtime. So that sailed under the total by 10.5 points. So I think the knee-jerk reaction would be to look for another low-scoring game here. But NFL games have gone over the total 30 of 37. If the over-under line was greater than 50 points and a team went under their previous game by 21 or more points. So I think this is just going to be a bounce back for Seattle here. Before that 19-9 game, they've been playing overs every single week. So I'm going to look for this one to be a high-scoring game. I'll take the over.
Again, Big Al, I'm with you. I love the over in this game. Like you said, Seattle, they played in a tough game last week. But before that, y'all know I've been high on the Seattle team. Geno has actually stepped in there and been pretty good. Pete Carroll looking like he was right on Russell Wilson, and the Seahawks team been kind of flying high. So I like the Seahawks plus the points in this one, and I like the over. I think we see a back and forth game all game. I think we see kind of a shootout here. Neither defense impresses me at all. I like both offenses. Herbert's starting to look healthy. Herbert he's that good, man. He really is. Can their coach get out of the way, though, is the question. I don't think he's the guy. I think it's time for him. This Chargers team, I know Mitch thinks they're overrated, and I do too, but they're a good team, man. It's just if they can get a different coach in there, they're going to be a scary team moving forward.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either, but they need to.
Well, I mean, how about what Hackett did, on his overtime possessions? I don't know if you guys were paying close attention, at the end of that game, but Denver runs the ball, great first down, second down. It's 3rd and 1, and he just goes to a pass. And they were chewing up yardage. I just didn't understand his play calling in overtime at all to just kind of go run, pass, run, pass.
Yeah, we've seen some real questionable coaching decisions. I still think the Chargers, they got away with one because the Browns 100% should have won that game against them. So I don't know. I like the Seahawks plus the points, and I like the over in this one. I think it's a shootout, but the Seahawks cover it late.
Taking the Seahawks. Pete Carroll's one of the top 3 evaluators of talent in the history of football at any level. The top 3 of our generation or of the last 25 years. Butch Davis, Pete Carroll, and Ed Orgeron are the 3 best evaluators of talent in getting the right players of anybody out there. And if you look at their NFL resume as college coaches or as college assistants, and you look at the players that they recruited and brought in, well, it's basically the Hall of Fame. All of the guys that are in the Hall of Fame that have been on the All-Star team for the last, I mean, it's, obviously not Tom Brady or, Peyton Manning, but it's a lot of these guys that weren't recruited in college, out of high school that, became superstars. And the Seahawks have done it that way for a long time. They have always had the most undrafted players on their roster of any team out there. And, so him realizing maybe Russell Wilson wasn't such a great bet at this point in his career, when Mark Sanchez was drafted, he was, and Pete Carroll was never the type of guy to put down his own players or anything like that. He wasn't trying to put Mark Sanchez down. He said, this guy is not ready at all. And he needs another year of college football under his belt, is what he said. And Mark Sanchez was never the quarterback that a lot of people thought he was going to be. And he probably could have used that extra year of college. But, but Pete Carroll, it's not just Reggie Bush, that he recruited. He recruited a lot of other really good players too. And, Ed Orgeron and Butch Davis, you look at their resume, it's just Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer. And you look at the starting NFL receiving and defensive backfield for the Pro Bowl, and they're all Ed Orgeron recruits, like every single one of them. And we see Ken Dorsey, calling the plays for the Buffalo Bills. Butch Davis is the guy that recruited this guy, that he was the only one to offer Ken Dorsey out of high school. He was the only coach to offer him a quarterbacking position. And when he became the coach of the Browns, he gave him a job there as the quarterback's coach. Anyways, back to the game. I like the Seahawks here. I just think that Chargers are they're the worst 4-2 team now in football. Really. They should have lost that game to the Browns. They were dead to rights. They should have lost that game against the Broncos this past week. And I know should-haves don't count in the win-loss column, but
you could make the argument they could have won or should have won the game against the Chiefs. I mean, 99-yard pick six. So.
Right. I mean, that's the NFL.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. I mean,
I'm just saying I'm not laying 6.5 against Clappy in this spot. Clappy will be, come on, Gino. He loves clapping. He's clapping. He's patting.
Yeah.
It's weird because I went through a whole thing where I didn't like Pete Carroll, and then at a certain time something flipped, and I just all of a sudden I just like him.
I like Pete Carroll.
There's some guys like that. It'd be like that sometimes. They just out the blue. You're like, hey, I like this guy now.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's also known really big in the community. He's the type of guy he goes into the worst neighborhoods by himself. Just whatever. And he's super well known and kind of not afraid to do whatever he wants to do. And he runs his teams the same way. We got the Dolphins taking on the Steelers, and this one's on Sunday Night Football, so it's on NBC. I don't know how this game gets on Sunday Night Football, but it does. It's because they don't have the opt-out yet. So
yeah,
I'm ready for Tua gets the start here. He's 3-0 as a starter this season. The Dolphins 3-0 in games. They lost the game that he got knocked out of, and but the games that he's completed and started, they're 3-0. The ones that he has not, they've lost every single game. The Steelers coming off of a really nice win last week in a game where I gave it out on the live show in the morning, and it was kind of like my Bears pick from the opening week. Everybody was on the other side. I was on the Steelers money line, and they got it done, but I don't think they get it done here against Miami. Miami has a lot to play for here because they do not have a first-round draft choice. They have the Steelers' first-round draft choice in the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade, and my guess is they know they can really help their case here because the Steelers, this is a potential top 10 pick we're looking at here with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now.
Yeah, last week Pittsburgh was in a perfect situational spot, coming off a 35-point whitewash.
Oh, it was the perfect storm. It was
perfect spot for Pittsburgh. Yep. Well, this is the opposite of perfect spot, right? So after the Steelers pull off that upset as a home dog of 9.5 points, when you take a look at NFL teams after upset wins as home dogs of 7 or more points. They tend to fall flat the next week. They've coverage as 15 of 43. I don't see any reason, why that's also not going to be the case here. I'm going to lay the 7 points with Miami.
Sounds like we got a consensus on this one because I'm with you. I like the Dolphins. Tua should be back this week, man. And I think although he was out, man, and it was unfortunate, I think this was actually good for Tua that he sat out because I think some people now are seeing his value. Tua is better than a lot of people give him credit for, man. He really has control of that locker room. This is his team, and they really respond to him well. They play for him well. First game back in here. This is still a terrible Steelers team. I don't care what they did last week.
He has the best arm in the NFL.
He does.
As far as,
he does.
Pure throwing of the football, He's not as creative as Patrick Mahomes, but he throws the best ball of anyone.
Yeah. I like Tua, man. And
he zips it.
I think this is a great spot for him, like y'all are saying. The Steelers shocked the world last week. I seen something that
except for me, because I had him on the
I seen something last week that said a lot of people the most bet team in parlays last week was the Buccaneers money line at -500. A lot of people just threw those in their parlays and
parlay them up with the Toronto Maple Leafs the other night.
They just threw them in the parlays as an extra filler, and that busted almost a lot of parlays last week.
I think the survivor pool, a lot of people took it on that, right, Alex?
I would have been. I didn't enter a survivor pool, but if I had, I would have had the Packers last week, so I would have been knocked out.
But I think in the early NFL games, they said there was 346 picks in the early NFL games last week, and only 18 of them were correct.
Well, yeah, because you're the Packers. I think the only big favorite that won last week might have been the Rams, right?
Yeah, which was my bet of the day.
Yeah, the Patriots were dogging that game. That was so weird. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah,
that was strange.
Yeah, survivor pools are a bitch.
Yeah.
That's why I don't enter them.
It's like when your proxy sits you down and talks you out of this being in the survivor pool. You figure he probably knows.
Right. I just stick to point spreads.
He's like, don't. You know. He goes, you realize what you're getting yourself into here. It's like Thanksgiving. You have to play those games as a separate week. Forget it.
Yeah, they're tough.
I think the Bills play the Lions on Thanksgiving. And I think everybody is saving them for that.
I will say this, going back to that Steeler-Dolphin game, if you think you're going to be betting on Miami, do it now before the line goes up to 7.5, 8. I'm not saying it necessarily will, but it's sitting 7 across the board right now. So this is one of those times where, if folks are thinking about betting on Miami, do it now, be defensive, lay 11 to 10 on it at -7.
Sean Murphy on our Sunday show was pretty adamant that Najee Harris is not the running back that they thought they were going to get in Pittsburgh. He's pretty adamant.
He's good, but he's not what we thought he was. We thought he was going to be,
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, he thought he was going to be like arguably top 3 running back in the league. He's not that.
Nope. Got the Patriots hosting the Bears. This is a Super Bowl rematch from a long time ago. Very long time ago.
It wasn't exactly a good game.
No, it was a really, really bad game.
46-10, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, but it wasn't as close as the score either. God, what was his name? Tony, the quarterback for the Patriots. Tony. It was drafted ahead of Marino. Tony from Illinois.
Yeah, no, Eason.
Oh, Tony Eason.
Yeah.
Right? Tony Eason. Yeah.
Poor guy. Remember those days when all the Super Bowls were garbage and non-competitive, and now, we've been gifted the past,
Oh yeah. There's so many of them. A lot of them had the Cowboys that were just these runaway Super Bowls, but
and now we get good games lately.
Now we get good games. And the Giants Broncos, remember how lousy that game was? And then Washington against the Broncos, Washington against the Raiders. It was like terrible games. And then This Bears one, though, was the best Super Bowl MVP acceptance speech of all time. That was Richard Dent. And they said, Richard, how does it feel to be Super Bowl MVP? He says, I feel like Martin Luther King because he had a dream and I had a dream that I was going to be Super Bowl MVP. He took it. Yeah, he was so happy. He's like, how does it feel? I feel like Martin Luther King. It's the best.
Yeah. What year was that? Y'all know?
86.
84? Was it 86?
84
was Dolphins, right?
84 was Dolphins. No, the Dolphins lost in 84 to Washington.
Right.
Then in 85 was the Giants. And then it was the 86 Bears.
Okay,
Buddy Ryan's 86 Bears.
Y'all have seen so much football. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but the 86 Bears, Jay, was a different story. That was like one of the greatest teams of all time.
Yeah. I mean, that was like, the Super Bowl shuffle and MTV.
They lost one game all season.
Yeah.
They lost one game. It was at Miami.
At Miami in the regular season, yeah.
They were trying to break the Dolphins' undefeated season, and Dan Marino threw the ball and it hit Dwight Stevens in the center. It was all-pro center, a Hall of Famer. It hit him in the back of the head. The ball shot off like a ricochet. It didn't even go straight up in the air. It shot off like a ricochet right into Mark Clayton's hands, and he took it in for a touchdown, and the game was over. I mean, it was like the Dolphins just went off after that. It was like a crazy play. And then the Bears were going to rematch the Dolphins in the Super Bowl. The Dolphins lost to the Patriots, and the Patriots played against the Bears in the Super Bowl, and it was like Al said, 46-10. And they didn't give Walter Payton a touchdown in the game. It was terrible.
Gave it to refrigerator.
They gave it to the fridge at the goal line. William Perry.
I wonder what the prop odds on that were like. What were the odds for the fridge to get a touchdown? I know they were dealing it at the time because he had gotten some handoffs during the year. But.
The fridge was such a big celebrity at the time that he used to do celebrity appearances. And I know some friends of mine had him they were at a bar mitzvah where the fridge was, they paid the fridge an appearance fee to come to the bar mitzvah, and they couldn't get the guy to leave. He was eating everything in sight. It was like, it's just like, wow, this food is really good. It's just like he couldn't get him to leave, and he it ended up costing like whatever his appearance fee, and then it was like 25 more plates that they had to pay for this guy.
Oh my god. Well,
that's funny.
I mean, in this ball game, in this game, we've got two teams going in opposite directions. The Patriots have won their last two. They've covered their last three. Meanwhile, the Bears are on a 3-game losing streak. But NFL teams, off back-to-back losses, they've covered 65.2% on Monday nights versus opponents off 3 straight ATS wins. So I'll take the contrarian play, and I'll take the points with Chicago.
The NFL doesn't like us, man, obviously, because what is up, man? Bears back-to-back in prime time, and the Broncos 4 weeks in a row on prime time. Like, can we get some good games? Shit. I mean, we had Cowboys-Eagles, which was a good one, but, man, Bears in prime time is just not good for us. But in this one, though, I've been on the Patriots 3 weeks in a row, man. I've cashed all 3 weeks. This team, I've been trying to tell you, the offense doesn't really change from Mac Jones to Bailey Zappi. I know everybody was calling quarterback controversy here in Dallas. I was saying there's no controversy. But in New England, I think there's pause for real controversy. I just think Zapp has more offensive upside than Mac Jones, honestly. And if you've seen Zappy play at Western Kentucky, you know what I'm talking about. He's been good. I just think his footwork's a little better in the pocket than Mac Jones. I like this Patriots team with him under center. I think the book's still not out on them, and they run the football effectively. And with Bill Belichick in that defense, they're playing good defense. I'm going to take the Patriots in this one. I think they win it by 10. The Bears just find ways to lose ball games. Like we said, they should have won that game last week against Washington. They had every opportunity to. but they just shot themselves in the foot. And I can kind of see them against a well-coached team. Where's this game at? Is it in New England?
Yes.
It's in New England.
Oh man, hell no. I'm taking New England. Rookie quarterbacks or second-year quarterbacks on the road in New England is never a good spot. Same reason why I faded the Lions when they were hot going to New England. It's a house of horrors for young quarterbacks. Give me the Patriots. Lay the points. Extended, honestly, in this one too. Patriots beat up on them.
Yeah, Patriots and under for me. I can't even see how they get there, but I know the world will be on them. So the team that the world has been on has not done well in primetime this season. That's for sure. And, I don't know how the Bears could possibly do it. It'd take some turnovers or something.
Yeah, New England's getting 70% of the money as we speak.
Yeah, so it just seems like it's going to be one of those type of games. I could see, Belichick, the game plan he put against the Browns and the Lions, why that wouldn't work against these guys too. I mean, if you could shut down the Browns and the Lions, you sure as heck can shut down the Chicago Bears, who scored 7 points against the Washington Commanders and 19-point game. These primetime games have all gone under.
I think primetime unders are hitting in. What, Al, could you have that number? I think it's like coming crazy, like 65, 70.
It's got to be more than that.
I can only look up Monday night and Thursday night. I can do it, myself without looking at the computer, but my computer can only do Mondays and Thursdays.
What does it say about these games? Thursdays are all under. They've all been under.
Yeah, I know I've had 6 primetime picks this year. I'm 6-0. I don't pick every one, but
pick the under and all of them.
I usually stick with the sides. I think I had one total and 5 sides.
I went on a cold streak in the prime times, and I just started taking all the unders, and they were all hitting. Like in that Bears Commanders, I had the under.
Let me just see something here.
To start out the season on the half times, you were cold on the prime times, but you've heated up as the season's gone on.
I've been doing it a while, so yeah. It's kind of like you played the back of your baseball card.
Let me just see something here. I'm just pulling up on Monday and Thursday games. 9-4 under this year. Don't know if my glasses on, hard to read. Looks like home teams are 6-7, and underdogs are 6-7. Favorites are 7-6. But yeah, 9-4 to the under on Mondays and Thursdays.
I think Sundays are pretty much the same thing. So it's probably, we've seen a lot of unders on prime time this year.
We're definitely getting some data under our belt, and it's only we're only going to have more as the weeks roll on here. So I think these shows are heating up. I think if you've been playing our picks from these shows, they're pretty good.
And 2 of the games that went over were by a point or a half point. Buffalo, Tennessee. And
that was a line move. That was a line move through the.
I just go by closing line. Yeah, 41-7 went over the total of 47 by a point, and then also the Dallas Giants, and again, the line move. 23-16, so 39 points went over the closing line of 38.5.
Yep, and moved also.
Yeah, exactly. So your mileage. So the 2 that were clean would have been Kansas City, Vegas, 30-29. And Cleveland, Pittsburgh, 29-17. I think it also had 2 late scores in that game. So could have easily gone under, but and it went over.
What game was it where it was the Bills Chiefs this past week where he said, or Tony Romo says, what they're going to do here is just snap it over his head for the safety, and it would have put them inside the number to do that. And then they were like on the 30-yard line. He's like, they're not going to snap it over his head.
Yeah, I was just
it's like, all right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Another fun week of NFL. I know a lot of you guys watch it on the replay. So if you have any comments, anything that you'd like to see us talk about that we haven't talked about, or anything else, by all means, put that in the comments and we'll do our best to cover it. If not, grab Al's, Jay's, and my best bets every single day over at Pick Dogs Premium, and 2-for-1 capper deals, all that other stuff. Everyone still has season passes and all kinds of probably reduced prices coming up. So be sure to grab them. Have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time.